sadness over the loss of lives, and protests in the Southeast called for restoration of peace in the state. He described the numerous deaths as sacrilegious killings of innocent persons, kidnappings, and all forms of criminalities, including brutal enforcement of senseless sit-at-home order perpetuated by sundry groups claiming to be acting on behalf of IPOB. We have a guest joining the conversation this morning, Nick Agule. It's good to have you join us.
Good morning. Thank you for welcoming me.
All right. Nick Agule, what do you make of, the statement and thoughts of Nnamdi Kanu as regards the situation in the southeastern part of Nigeria?
Thank you very much for that question. I think before I comment on Nnamdi Kanu, I would like to comment on Governor Charles Soludo. I give him kudos for taking the step to go and visit with Nnamdi Kanu and also have discussions with him in his work to look for solutions to the security issues, specifically in the southeast and particularly in Anambra State where he is governor. I think this is what all our leaders need to do. Insecurity cannot be fought only with guns and bullets. There has to be discussions. Government must be willing to listen to agitations, discuss, and resolve. So to that extent, I want to thank Governor Soludo for taking this step. And now, back to Nnamdi Kanu in terms of what he said. From what he said, he has totally absorbed IPOB from the senseless killings that are happening in the southeast. He absorbed IPOB from the sit-at-home orders that have been issued, all of that. I am not in a position to say whether Nnamdi Kanu is telling the truth or not. That is a job for the security agencies and our Nnamdi Kanu and repatriate him to Nigeria through intelligence, covert operations, and everything that is put into it. That same security and law enforcement apparatus should be able to investigate the killings in the southeast and pin it on somebody. Is it that they pin it on IPOB, of which Nnamdi Kanu is the leader, or they pin it on the people that Nnamdi Kanu alleges are the ones behind the killings? We cannot allow the killings to be going on, and there is a trading of blames between Nnamdi Kanu and the federal government. Because for the families of those who have been killed, this trading of blames does not help them. And for those who are in the southeast, they know that it can be anybody's turn tomorrow. And that sense of insecurity is not good for the country, is not good for the economy, is not good for the polity, is not good for the orderly conduct of society. So we have to have a resolution for this.
All right. Well said, Nick Agule. I understand and like your opening salvo, but let's really talk about this issue of insecurity in the southeast. Just how far-reaching do you think this particular consultation or wide consultation of the Anambra State Governor, Charles Soludo, can really go to stem the tides?
Yeah, so the issue of insecurity in the southeast is unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. Because for most of us, we just read it on the news. So many numbers have been killed. So many numbers have been killed. And we just move on to the next breaking story. But for the families who are directly impacted by this killing, they have lost loved ones. A gap, a void, a gulf has been created in their lives. And they are living with this every day. It's not going to be easy to fill the gap that has been created. So these families are going through a lot of trauma. And Nigeria is not a place where a family suffers such a tragedy and the government, through the social services, sends counselors to them to help them cope with the trauma. We don't have things like that. So lives are being destroyed, families are being torn apart. This thing has to stop. That is the first thing that has to happen. Now, how to stop it? There is no one size fits all solution. All the available means to bring peace to the Southeast must be explored. They must and have to be explored. We are the traditional institution. They should pretend over their various communities. These people that come out, key security agencies, key citizens, and all of that, they're not falling from the sky. They are living within communities. And the people in those communities, they know them. When they go and commit atrocities and come back, they are aware of this. And this is where the traditional institution needs to come. In providing the necessary information to the security agencies. But even before they do that, they can call these people to talks to the round table and say, this senseless killing doesn't make meaning. There are other ways that the agitations can be satisfied. That is traditional institution. You have the government at various levels. There are local government and there is a state government. In all of the Southeast, in all the 5 Southeast states, you have 5 governors, you have probably.
All right, I think we have lost him. We'll try and reconnect with him again. So, Mercy, I really needed to find out just how far this consultation would go because he talked about blame trade. It's IPOB, it's not IPOB. Those trying to masquerade themselves as IPOB. At the end of the day, families of these victims, they are yet to, get, closure on all of these killings.
Closure can be a very big and sensitive issue, trust me. I mean, it can be difficult when people want to get closure. And that might just necessarily be what they need at a time, to just end it. Maybe the closure, the family that, okay, this is what it is, and those also involved, and then we have a declaration, arrests being made and what have you. But it still brings us back to the point where we would have to talk about where is the place of the police? Because it looks as if every other time that we leave, we constantly talk about, it feels like it's a helpless situation. Are we really in a helpless situation? Isn't this a government? Don't we have the security architecture that's been put out to ensure that at the external level you have the military who saddled with the responsibility of ensuring that the territorial integrity of the country is protected against external aggressions. And so you come to these, internal affairs of the country. Then you expect that the police is saddled with our responsibility. So whether or not this IPOB is not IPOB, somebody's parading or masquerading and impersonating, where is the place of the police, the Nigerian police force in all of this? Why haven't we is it that we have been overwhelmed and overcome by the happenings?
It is really, really sad. And fine, when you asked Opunabo Inko-Tariah about, what he made about Nnamdi Kanu's position, he said he sounded two-faced, except he has repented, because he had initially gone out to the public and said that those Igbos too who do not support the cause, should be killed. And now he's saying that he is not aware of the killings, going on in the Southeast, that it is not IPOB, and even the sit-at-home order allegedly being, done by the IPOB members. that he knows nothing about it.
Yeah, so like I earlier mentioned that it calls for a lot of concern. Prior to this time, we should have been very observant. So you look at the patterns and the behavior at the time where you had IPOP coming out to say, hey, I mean, this IPOP, there's a group called IPOP, indigenous people, up until when you had the government saying they have been prescribed as terrorists. I mean, the prescription that was on. Right. You should have actually looked at how was the pattern, well, how was the behavior, activities, what really happened at the time, and juxtapose that with what's going on really. To understand. There's been a disclaimer. If you have a disclaimer that's been put, it means that the security agency, it means that the Nigerian police force should get to work and find out who are these persons behind. If the IPOP is saying that we're not responsible for this, then who is responsible for all of this crime and criminality?
Like he rightly said, Nick, that he's, they were, very organized as it is to go to Kenya to, nab Nnamdi Kanu as it is, that they should also go the extra mile to do their job and ensure, those who are behind this particular killing, so that masqueraded or not, they would be brought to book. I also must commend Charles Soludo for the initiative that he's taken. He is just new. He's barely spent 3 months in Anambra State.
This would score him a political point.
Well, maybe. But in fact, what I'm trying to say is that I think maybe because the seat at home is actually more prominent in Anambra State, but I think this issue of Southeast security, the Southeast leaders, governors should come together again. There was a time they did, and they came out with the Ebubeagụ, to stem the tide, but ever since then, I don't know how far Ebubeagụ has gone, and I think they need to meet yet again to discuss this issue of killings in the Southeast. I know it doesn't just happen in Anambra State, it also happens in Imo State and some other eastern states. They need to come together, forge a common front and find plausible solutions to all of this.
So there's been a lot of speculation as to some persons who are responsible carrying all of these activities out. I mean, at the time you hear some governors having a hand in the insecurity in the region and in some states. But my concern is if you have a region, let's be very honest. Let's put the cards on the table. I mean, the cards on the table. And let's look at the conversation. If you have a region who's saying that this is what we're calling for, these persons are asking for a republic. They are asking for self-actualization. They want to be self-sufficient. I mean, they just want to be independent of the entire system. That's Nigeria now. Should it not be a concern of, the center? Should the center not be concerned about this? Why have we gone
things
through...
are falling apart. The center will definitely not hold.
So why is the center not concerned about this? These are questions that I ask myself on a daily basis. And I don't know, I'm sure that it might just also be a Nigerian question. Why is the center not concerned about this? A group of persons are saying that we have been marginalized. We haven't been carried along. What you're asking for, we want to be. We want to be on our own for several reasons. And why haven't we had a conversation, if we're very honest, with the mode of operandi? I mean, we're saying that, okay, we don't want you to go away. It's not compulsory. It's not compulsory. It doesn't state anywhere that it's compulsory. As a matter of fact, as an individual, I do have a right to denounce my citizenship as a Nigerian. That's what we need to know. I can decide to say I don't want to become a Nigerian anymore, like I want to denounce my citizenship. The Constitution guarantees all of that. And so it is not arbitrary, it is not contrary to the law. But why are we treating all of this? Why is the center not concerned? And why has the center not incorporated this? We've had a constitutional review. Why has this not become a crux of the conversation? Why has the Ninth Assembly not considered all of this? And with the fact that you have these governors and House of Representatives and senators in a different part because they're also part of the system, what's going on?
Yeah, what's going on? But we have Nick Agule back on air, or on the air. Thank you for staying with us, Nick.
Yeah, thank you. We're battling network issues.
Of course.
Yeah, some days are just like that. Mercy and I have been, making conversations concerning all of this, the agitations in the Southeast, self-determination, the place of the leaders, and why the center is not listening and all of that. But I asked Mercy the place of the Southeast leaders in all of this. you have rightly said that Soludo should be commended for what he's doing so far, consultation and all, but don't you think the Southeast leaders have to even do more to forge a common front?
Yes, indeed. They have to do more. We live in a federation called the Federal Republic of Nigeria that is made up of over 200 or more ethnic nationalities. So we are not homogeneous. Given that, it becomes imperative that if any ethnic nationality feels that they are better outside the Nigerian Federation, then they have to be given a voice. They have to be given a voice to be heard. Because refusing to give them a voice becomes imprisonment. That means we're forcefully holding them to be part of the Nigerian Federation by force, against their will. But how can they be given a voice? The only way to give a voice to any nationality that agitates to leave the Federation of Nigeria is through a referendum. But unfortunately, the Constitution of Nigeria does not have a referendum. I mean, let's be very clear about this. The Constitution we operate, the so-called 1999 Constitution, this is a contraction that was put together by the military, who we are intending to transmute from Turkey to Abda. They couldn't have given us a civil constitution that will challenge their power. The military are not known for that. So all this while, for 22 years now, what we needed is for the National Assembly to actually take this constitution apart and rebuild a proper democratic civil constitution for Nigeria that grants the citizens rights such as referendum, self-determination. Because if we have a referendum in the constitution, then the referendum will be called. If the majority of South-Easterners in Nigeria decide that wherever they are, all over in the 30 states of Nigeria, they want to go back to the 5 states of the Southeast so that they can form their own nation, so be it.
All right, Nick Agule. Well, but then again, so that one wonders what happens with all the moves that has been made to ensure that this issue of insecurity in the Southeast is brought under. First of all, the governors met sometime last year, and they talked about Ibubago and all that, but it's as though nothing has changed in recent times. Then what's the essence?
Of course.
Okay.
We have been disconnected with Nick Agule. So the conversation would continue, and we would have the back and forth, and I always would like to ask, I don't think it's because we don't understand the dynamics and we don't understand the implication of all of this as a people. We have stakeholders. You can't take out the government from the equation. We understand it, but there's no willpower, there's no political will, if you want to say, to go ahead with the actions. The problem with us is not that we don't know what the problem is, because usually you ask yourself, is it that we don't understand what the problem is? I mean, is it so difficult? Is it rocket science? Because rocket science is very possible. But the question is, do we have the backings? Are we honest with our thoughts, and are we looking at the conversation? Are we even really honest with the people that we say we have been elected to represent our interests? This person's elected us to represent, because that's the proclamation that's been made. And so, yes, I was elected president, I was elected governor, I was elected whatever House of Representative member and what have you. But is that in its true sense? Is that what we're doing? Are we living up to that expectation?
That's a really hard one. We know what the issues are. We are not doing all that we need to do, and Nigerians are just dying by the numbers, and the police and the security agencies are not really being proactive about this, and yet lives should be lost by the day. It is really very sad what's happening in the southeast, what's happening across Nigeria, insecurity generally, with the killings here and there, the banditry, the kidnapping. I just wonder when we'll get to that point. I remember growing up, kidnapping was really alien to us. Issues of terrorism and banditry was not even close. We only just watch it in movies and see it in Western films. But I don't know how we got to this extent. And
because we're evolving as a people.
Who's punishing us for our sins?
No, nobody's punishing us. I mean, we're evolving, and it's part of humanity. We're evolving. We're interacting with the global community, and we're also not paying attention to the concerns that we have as a people. For instance, let's look at it. 2023 is here, and we have a lot of persons who are saying they want to become president, but how many persons are paying attention to the real issues? So we have seen presidential aspirants who've come out to say, I want to continue from where he stopped. What does that even mean? Because if you continue from where he stopped, where did he stop? What is going on with where he stopped or where he started? These are the issues. People feel that they're not part of the system. And we understand that when you had the amalgamation process, the fact that you had the regions come together. So you had governance at the time, not the way it is, but it was so you had a regional government, you had a regional system. And then we had the amalgamation of the southern, the eastern, everybody came together. 1914, and yay, we became an entity called Nigeria. But a lot of persons do not feel. So we have seen a lot of things that have divided us and further divides us as a people. So you don't even know where to start. Because the issue of security, if you want to deal with it, it's encompassing. It's not just limited to the fact that you have a group of persons who don't believe in a certain thing, and so you say the Boko Haram is on one side. You also have security from the issue that people don't think that they should be together. Whether or not it's IPOP, but you have a group of persons who have decided to say we don't want to be as an entity. Some persons have decided to, impersonate these group of persons, and then they begin to commit crime and criminality. These are issues we should care. So it's a lot, from security issues, from the fact that unemployment is also an issue. So you find crime and criminality happening from unemployment. You also have the fact that you have to deal with a group of persons. You also have the fact that some persons don't feel that they belong. And what is the government doing if you look at how resources? Because you have a government. Government came into existence for a certain purpose, and we exist. The government is in existence for a certain purpose. People have decided to give their will and say, we will submit our will to government. And that's why it's barbaric for people to take the laws into their hands. Because you have a system. And that's why it's wrong that someone would feel that, my religion has been blasphemed. Someone has said evil against me. Therefore, let me take the law into your hand. It therefore shows that the government, the essence of governance and government has failed. And that's why people are taking the laws. It's not supposed to be so. That's why you have government, and that's why you have governance. So let's get back to the drawing board. But with all that's happening, you look at those who are aspiring to become president, nobody seems to be saying anything. It feels like there's a disconnect. Don't we understand what's going on? How do we solve the problem?
All right, there's a whole lot that is really bedeviling the country, and there are fundamental issues, and we need to go back to the drawing board, like Mercy has said. It is still the breakfast. We'll take a quick break and we'll return with more. Stay with us.
So what are the top decisions that the United States considers necessary that Nigeria must take? I like to think of my interactions as conversations, not interviews. And that's why I say asking questions is both an art and a science. Everyone says in Islam you are allowed to have 4 wives. Is it mandatory? The right question enables answers that educate, inform, clarify, and help you, the viewer, to better understand the issue before making up your mind.
Our goal is to reduce from 10 to 2 days the time it takes to register businesses in Nigeria.
Join me every week on this station, Plus TV Africa, and gain exclusive access to my conversations. I'm Angela Ajetumobi.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with diverse culture and highly cerebral minds who have a lot to say. And yes, we are talking. It is important we drive the right conversation that informs, inspires, be the voice of transformation, as we are the hope for the future. Yesterday's conversations shape today. What are you saying to shape your tomorrow? We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the Babin, I pay my rent. On the Babin, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
All right, welcome back. It's still the Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. The big stick has been wielded, and a whole lot of political appointees have been resigning. Those who said they will not resign eventually, have resigned. Let's just talk about it for a bit. We have a public affairs analyst, Opunabo Inkotare, joining us yet again to look at all of the issues. Opunabo, thanks for staying with us.
It's my pleasure always.
All right, when we were going through the papers this morning, the Nation newspaper ably captioned it this way: resignation directive, Amechi, Silva, Tarlin, others to go today. It's like a long time coming. Why didn't they resign before now?
You mean why the delay?
Yes.
You're moving from the known
to the unknown.
The sure to the unknown and to the unsure. So you just have to be extremely careful. You have to really discuss with your wife or your husband, in summary your spouse, your children, your dependents, and a lot of consultation. And also concentrate on the consequences of your action. Because you still have 1 year to go. A lot of them are imagining what the benefits will be within this 1 year, pecuniary benefits, and the effects of office. That was why he quickly withdrew his own letter of resignation. Because he wasn't too sure. He's so fluid. You can imagine how many presidential aspirants on the APC platform, and only one person will get it. Before now, a lot of them depended on Mr. President's nod for Mr. President to say you are the chosen one. But the man has refused to say so. So they are no longer sure. And that is the essence of the dilatoriness. I call it dilatoriness. Now, they are going to resign today, those that will resign, because today is the deadline fixed by Mr. President. So willy-nilly, if you are contesting, you must go today. If you don't go today, and I remember Paula said that as far as the law is concerned, he has to be resigned. And he made reference to the relevant sections of the Constitution. So Ngige too is no longer a minister. That is the truth about it. Because when I cross-checked, Palana was right. So Ngige is no longer, Ngige resigned long ago, since last week. But that's why the ones that are yet to resign today, and those that are to resign on Friday, postponed to today. Thinking Monday was forever. But it is sad. Today is Monday.
We are waiting.
Okpanabankatari, you seem to be having a great time with all that's happening, especially with the resignation of political appointees. But the question is, you're saying that everyone is resigning because of the president's order. This is the president's order, or it's what the law states, the Electoral Act?
No, Mercy. This resignation has no nexus to the Electoral Act. Legally. Not at all, because the truth is, the Electoral Act is inferior to the Constitution. And the court have said so. Even the Court of Appeal that struck down the appeal on technical grounds, on grounds of local standing, in its own bitter dictum, acknowledged that the Electoral Act is in conflict with the provisions of the Constitution, and to that extent of inconsistency is null and void. The Constitution says 30 days. Now, the mistake most of our National Assembly members are making is that for any provision in the Constitution, for you to come up with a subsidiary legislation, you must first of all amend that Constitution. Otherwise, any other law, so long as it contravenes or contradicts the Constitution, is to the extent of that contradiction null and void. So I don't think they are scared or in contravention of any law. Probably they are asking them to resign. It is better to err on the part of caution. Because if the Supreme Court should interpret the Constitution otherwise, that is the law. Because the next person you'll appeal to is gone. So that is why they said to avoid the Zamfara incident and Rivers incident of 2019, you better resign. So that all those that are going, that will bear the flag of the party, will be on clean slate. That's all.
All right.
There is no contravention. As we speak right now, there is no contravention.
All right, Opunabo, let's just wrap up by asking this one. This dispensation, we saw a lot of intrigues, a lot of drama, a lot of firsts, to happen this time around. In future, for the sake of posterity, what are the lessons to be learned from all of this that has played out, the build up to the race to the 2023 presidency?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
What are the lessons to be learned from all of this to the build up to the 2023 presidency? What's the lesson for posterity?
It's simple. First of all, it depends on who is there. This is a novelty. It wasn't like this under Obasanjo. It wasn't like this even under Jonathan. This is a novelty. I think it's as a result of the leadership style of Mr. President. I don't want to say it's McCormick. I want to say, I don't make as you say, it doesn't even talk. It doesn't even talk. When you say McCormick is somebody that talks, he doesn't talk much, but he doesn't talk. He allows you until the last day. Even in terms of signing, taking actions, the last minute, the 11th hour is when he acts. So this is what is responsible. A lot of them believe that he was going to bless them, and he has failed to bless anyone. He has kept that blessing to himself. He said it was close to his chest to protect the life of that person. That was what he said. There is no lesson to be learned, my brother. It depends on the president come 2023. There is after 2023, the next one. Sorry, I didn't do maths in school, so don't mind me.
It's okay. Most people are not very good at maths. Even Mercy is not so good at maths, too.
I'm doing my calculations. That's how I got here very early this morning. Thank you so much, Okpanabankatari, for being part of the breakfast. We do appreciate your time every other day. Thank you so
That's a good one. I needed that laughter. Thank you so much, Opunabo.
So how do you think I got here? If I don't do my maths?
Mercy.
No, so how did I get
You ran
here?
away from engineering. You ran away from medicine.
No, it's not. I didn't run away from anything.
Mercy, what did you study in school?
I love government. And
Mercy,
that's why I'm not away from here.
In school,
oh, no, let's not even get into that. But I'm not even away from... I didn't run away from those things.
Did you study medicine?
Why? Because I didn't want to
Did you do the sciences?
No, I didn't
Mercy,
want to do all of that.
You that you ran away.
No.
That's the size of what we're discussing.
No, but before we do the size...
I studied accounting. I didn't run away from maths.
And what are you doing here?
Don't ask that question.
So, I mean, it's my calculations that got me to the office very
Tell me about
and
it.
I always have that.
Tell me
very
about
correct.
it.
So, I mean, I didn't run
differentiation, integration, correlation. Okay, let me stop.
That's
all right, that's the size of the show for today. We say a very big thank you to all of you who have sat back to watch, and of course to all of our guests. We say a very big thank you to you. My name is Justin Akadonye. The show returns tomorrow.
And I am Mercy Bopo. Many thanks for being part of The Breakfast. We appreciate you. If you missed any part of it, it's okay to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. Have a fantastic Monday.
You don't know maths. Bye.
It for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Hello and welcome to Space and Style, a property show designed to connect various stakeholders across the property value chain. We can also provide realistic solutions and deepen your knowledge about the interesting world of real estate. We shall showcase architectural design, interior design trends, lifestyle and real-time property news updates, and the right way to navigate through property development and investment. Join me every week on this channel as I take you through an exciting journey in the world of real estate.
Space and Style, 6:30 p.m. on Saturdays and 5:30 p.m. on Wednesdays.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on Plus TV Africa as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Kindness is the word that inspired Emmy Award-winning filmmakers Kahani Cooperman and John Hoffman to make The Antidote. The documentary focuses on how American communities across the country are coming together in times of need.
My name is O'Connell. I'm Dr. O'Connell. What do you need? Anything? I need mental health.
Dr. James O'Connell, founder of Boston Healthcare for the Homeless, goes out in the streets to treat homeless people.
I'm Russell. I work here at the college. Tell me your name again.
In Amarillo, Texas, Russell Laurie Hart, president of Amarillo College, helps underprivileged students manage their personal lives, thrive academically, and escape generational poverty. At Peter Johansson High School in Modesto, California, Sherry McIntyre teaches a class about religious tolerance and the diversity of faith in America.
We need to protect the rights of the smallest minority, because in doing that, we're protecting our own rights. We can't get too comfortable. We have to stand up for each other.
The stories go on and on.
We came up with 6 questions that completely informed our creative process, which are: how do we raise our children? How do we teach our children? How do we take care of the sick and the dying? How do we live and work together? How do we welcome the stranger? And how do we lead?
Hoffman says the film was made as a counterpoint to the growing political and social divisions in America.
Those stories are all examples of working to right these systemic wrongs that we call fundamental unkindnesses.
It's, fundamentally unkind to not have a safe place to sleep. Fundamentally unkind to not have access to health care. Racism is fundamentally unkind. Homophobia is fundamentally unkind. Sexism is fundamentally unkind.
Cooperman says that although the film was made just before the country was ensnarled in the grip of the pandemic, it is relevant today.
More relevant, perhaps, than when we even started. Certainly with COVID, it was about communities coming together.
Such as how communities in Anchorage, Alaska are welcoming African refugees, or how elderly communities in Portland, Oregon are caring for children in foster care. The filmmakers hope the documentary inspires people to reach out to one another and to feed the force of good rather than fan the flames of hatred and divisiveness. Penelope Pulu, VOA News, Washington.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with diverse culture and highly cerebral minds who have a lot to say. And yes, we are talking. It is important we drive the right conversation that informs, inspires, influences thought and action. If we say there's beauty in our diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture. We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation, as we are the hope for the future. Yesterday's conversations shape today. What are you saying to shape your tomorrow? We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you.
Good morning, I am Justin Kadonye, and this is the news brief on Plus TV Africa. Kaduna-based Islamic scholar Sheikh Ahmad Gumi has cautioned Muslims against killing fellow human beings because of trivial issues, insisting that the Prophet of Islam was insulted and scorned, but he never killed in retaliation. Gumi, who was reacting to the gruesome murder of Deborah Samuel in Sokoto, said that any Muslim who kills a Christian in Nigeria because the Prophet was insulted will not smell the fragrance of Jannah. The cleric spoke while preaching at the Sultan Bello Mosque in Kaduna. He lashed at some Muslim clerics who were quoting verses they do not understand and telling people to kill whoever insults their religion. He quoted Quranic verses saying killing a non-Muslim under the guise that the person uttered a blasphemous statement against Prophet Muhammad is not an excuse. The Borno State Police Command has called on religious stakeholders to avoid anything that will disturb the current peace being enjoyed, especially in Maiduguri, the state capital. Commissioner for Police Abdul Omar, who addressed key stakeholders, said that Borno cannot afford to be complicit with the obvious tension generated last week in which a student was lynched by fellow students for alleged blasphemy in Sokoto State. Having seen the rising tension created by the lynching of Deborah for alleged blasphemy, the command engaged critical stakeholders in a peace-building dialogue to forestall any unrest. Omar said that intelligence report indicated that certain elements were already gearing up for a showdown in the city in reaction to the Sokoto incident, but that the police personnel, along with other security agencies like the NSCDC, Department of State Services, DSS, and the military deployed to maintain decorum were already nipping it in the bud. Now, the Catholic Archbishop of Abuja, His Grace, Most Reverend Ignatius Keigama, has urged Nigerians not to give up on the struggles for inter-religious harmony in the country. According to him, those who attempt to gain selfish advantages without respect for right or ethics and through forms of extremism must be opposed. Keigama said this during his homily at St. Louis Church FAB Global Estate in Abuja against the backdrop of last week's murder of Deborah Samuel, a Christian female student of Shehu Shagari College of Education, Sokoto. The cleric said Nigerians should not give up on the pursuit of brotherhood and peaceful coexistence, but must continue to speak up in a common voice and act in solidarity with one another against the evils of this time. The Northern Governors Forum, NGF, has condemned the killing of Deborah Samuel, a student of Shehu Shagari College of Education, over allegations of blasphemy. In a statement, the chairman of the forum, Simon Lalang, expressed the governor's concern about the development, not long frowned at the adoption of self-help in addressing grievances, whether religious or otherwise, which he observed could only lead to further chaos that could threaten the general peace and security of the society. Now, the NGF commiserated with the family of the victim and urged security agencies to thoroughly investigate the matter and ensure that the law takes its full course on anyone found culpable. In other news now, a pregnant woman who was one of the abducted passengers in the Kaduna train attack of March the 28th has been released by the terrorists. A member of the concerned relatives of abducted persons, Sani Musa, confirmed the development. The pregnant woman, Tamina Mahmood, was said to have been released in compassionate spirit. She and 61 others had spent 45 days in captivity. Now, weeks after the Abuja-Kaduna train attack, Northern Women Association, an interfaith group, have organized special prayers for victims still in captivity. There are also seeking divine intervention over the worsening insecurity and other challenges bedeviling the nation. Our correspondent Fabila Darufai reports as presented from our studios. Hundreds of women, religious interfaith groups, and children have converged here to seek God's help for the safe release of the abducted train passengers. On March the 28th, the terrorists attacked the train, killing 9 passengers and abducting 62, including a pregnant woman and an 85-year-old woman. The president of the Jamaiya Matan Arewa, JMA, Haji Rabi Salawa, says women must lend their voices to this cause, considering the pains parents go through with a mass abduction on a daily basis.
When we are mothers, we feel the pain of those families that were affected. Anything we have is prayers. So we decided to call the family members and our women and our religious leaders. As you can see, Khan is here, JNI is here. Let them pray for Ariwa. Let them pray for these victims. Let them also pray for our leaders to guide them, to give them the wherewithal for them to do what is right.
The chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, Kaduna State Chapter, Reverend Joseph Hayab, says insecurity and evil are on the rise in the society, and as such, everyone must come together to fight the scourge.
People of faith, we will not give up praying just because evil continues to grow. We believe in God, we believe in His intervention, and we know He's going to intervene. So we are joining the families and joining all others well-wishers to seek the face of God, that very soon our brothers and sisters who have been in this bush for a long time will come back. Governance is about protecting lives and properties. If you don't protect me, even if you build everything for me, I can use them because they are not useful to me. So protection of lives and property becomes the most ideal things we want today in Nigeria. We need two things: freedom and protection of lives and properties.
Also, renowned Islamic scholar Sheikh Ahmed Gumi says the leader are pushing Nigerians into crimes because of the hardship in the land. He lamented that leaders are busy seeking political offices ahead of 2023, while 62 Nigerians are being held captive.
We should do whatever we can do to get them out first. These people are in the bush, they cannot run away. They're in the bush, they cannot run away. So we just answer their needs immediately and free the victims. And we pray that it will not happen again to anybody. And we pray that this nation will unite together and Allah will bring tranquility in the nation so that we prosper. Because with this insecurity, we don't see any development coming. So we want the government to be proactive, to consult with people who are genuinely looking for this situation. This is no time for blaming other people. It's time to come together and see how that we get out of this problem.
They urged families of the victims to hope on God, believing that they will be reunited with their loved ones soon. Now, the negotiations between the federal government and the abductors of the Abuja-Kaduna train passengers may have deadlocked. Now, this is following the insistence of the gunmen on the release of their commanders in exchange for the abductees. The federal government is now seeking foreign assistance and technical expertise to resolve the yumpers. About 8 persons were killed and 26 others injured when gunmen bombed the rail track and fired gunshot at the Kaduna-bound train. So far, the gunmen had released 3 hostages, including the managing director of the Bank of Agriculture, Alwan Hassan Sadiq, son of Ango Abdullahi, convener of the Northern Elders Forum, and a pregnant woman who breathed air of freedom on Saturday. The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, has urged stakeholders and delegates of the All Progressives Congress in Jigawa State to vote in the interest of the younger generations during the party's presidential primary election. Osinbajo stated this while interacting with stakeholders and delegates in the state, that the presidential aspirant insisted that the country deserved the best, saying that President Muhammadu Buhari gave him an opportunity no other vice president was given. The vice president was received by a crowd of supporters at the airport and on the streets. APC chieftains and senior state government officials, led by Secretary to the state government, Abdul Qadir Adamu, who represented Governor Badaru Abubakar, who was out of the state. At the town hall meeting with the delegates, the vice president restated his view that decisions about the 2023 election should be based on what should be the best for the country. With the 2023 elections fast approaching, youths in Edo State have called on Nigerians to exercise their rights by holding the federal government accountable for the needed change currently being yearned for. The youths gave the call in Benin City, the state capital, during a symposium organized to chart the way forward for the next set of leaders who currently are seeking mandates of the people, as well as an all-inclusive participation in politics by youths and women.
We need to get it right in 2023. We have no other options. And so this is a symposium, this is the first symposium in Edo State where we are trying to fund out where we had discussants coming from outside the states and around the city capital to provide solutions to issues that affect us as a people.
The next set of leaders or our next president must be a person who believes in Nigeria. Many people don't believe in Nigeria. They just, okay, fine, they want power. Power is not used for the benefit of the people. Can you imagine an economy that has nosedived? How can you talk about a country where dollar is about 600 naira?
For our new leaders that we are going to vote for, we hope and pray that one thing that we wish, that if they should be God-fearing, everything is going to be okay. Because a man or a woman that has the fear of God, we always know that he's watching whatsoever I do. So when we have a leader that has good potentials, definitely the people that are looking up to them will also at least have good potential as well.
It's now belonging to the youth, and we are all here. We are all here seeking for a chance in our different parastatals, in our different walks of life. Let them be given an opportunity in the cabinets, as well as in the parliamentary seats and all that. Let them be given a voice to speak up for the youth of the country, and we can take it from there.
I hope things will change for the better. There's got to be legislation. There's no way out of legislating for compulsory involvement of women in politics, because it is only women that can speak for themselves in the various houses. How do you get legislation passed for things that would benefit women?
Still talking election matters, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has called on political parties and their followers to eschew violence and ensure peace as Osun State prepares for the July 16, 2022 governorship election. Now, this was made known during a sensitization workshop on campaign finance reporting for state chairman and candidate for the election in Osogbo on Friday. In his address, the Osun State Resident Electoral Commissioner, Professor Abdulgani Olayinkaraji, discouraged vote buying and selling. He added that it was better for the political parties to engage in campaigns and dissemination of manifestos. The Osun INEC boss, while stressing the importance of tracking political parties' finances, also hinted that vote buying and selling could also affect party finances tracking. The President Muhammadu Buhari and the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, have asked the Supreme Court to void the provision of Section 84, subsection 12 of the Electoral Act 2022. Their request is contained in a suit they filed on the 29th of April before the court through a group of private lawyers, including Lateef Fagbemi, hired by the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation. The suit has the National Assembly as a sole defendant. On May 11, a three-member panel of the Court of Appeal in Abuja set aside the judgment of the Federal High Court in Umuahia, which voided the provision of Section 84, subsection 12 of the Electoral Act. The panel, headed by Justice Hamma Akawo Barka, held that the FHC had no jurisdiction to have entertained the case because the plaintiff, Nduka Edede, lacked the local standi to have filed the suit in the first place. We're still talking court matters. The Socio-Economic Right and Accountability Project, SERAP, has filed a lawsuit against President Muhammadu Buhari over his failure to probe the alleged stolen 1.48 trillion naira refinery maintenance funds. The money was reportedly meant for the maintenance of 4 refineries between 2015 and 2020. Now, in a suit filed last week at the Federal High Court in Lagos, SERAP is seeking an order of mandamus to direct and compel President Buhari to investigate the spending of Nigeria's refineries and alleged mismanagement of public funds budgeted for maintaining the refinery since 1999. SERAP also sought an order of mandamus to compel President Buhari to ensure the prosecution of anyone suspected to be responsible for the importation and distribution of dirty fuel into Nigeria. And now to education matters. The Academic Staff Union of Universities and the Joint Action Committee on the Non-Academic Staff Union of Educational and Associated Institutions and the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities say the federal government did not reach a strong agreement with them that can lead to calling off their industrial actions. All the university unions in the country are currently on strike ASU started its strike on February the 14th, and the JAC commenced its own on April the 14th. The unions embarked on industrial actions while demanding improved welfare packages, better working conditions, and implementation of various labor agreements signed with the federal government between 2009 and 2020. The national leaders of ASU and JAC of SANU and NASU, Professor Emmanuel Osodeke and Mr. Emmanuel Ibrahim, respectively told reporters that the federal government and all stakeholders in the education sector and religious leaders had a meeting with the 4 unions, but no strong agreements were reached. The Minister of Labour and Employment, Senator Chris Ngige, was quoted in a report at the weekend as saying, "We had a cordial and fruitful discussion. We looked at the issues dispassionately and reached some agreements to the satisfaction of everybody in attendance." But Osodeke said Ngige's claim after the meeting that the unions would call off the ongoing strike this week was a political statement. The World Health Organization has handed over personal protective equipment to Adamawa State to contain the circulating mutant poliovirus type 2 in some local government areas. The materials are to be distributed to the 21 high-priority health facilities across local government and will be used by healthcare providers in the facilities. Speaking at the meeting with crucial stakeholders, the Deputy Governor, Crowther Seth, attributed the reported cases to low immunization coverage in some communities, stressing that government is fully committed to wiping out the virus in the affected areas. In his remarks, the state chairman of Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Dr. Suleiman Saidu Bashir, dwelt on the successes and challenges recorded during the exercise.
These are all aimed at building the necessary herd immunity for Nigeria to retain its polio-free status. I therefore urge each and every member of the state task force to rise up to this challenge. Let us do it. Let us do all that is required of us. I also urge you all to mobilize your teams and institutions for intensive advocacy and social mobilization for a successful conduct of the round 2 of the OBR in February.
We have a quality round in this May immunization. You can recall that in the last round, we have only one LG that failed the LQS. And the reason why we failed that LQS is not because people are refusing, but because of team performance. That is poor team performance. Child absence is one of the problems. All the children that we missed is because when the team visited the houses, the children were not around, and the team did not make any effort to go back and immunize the children. So this time around, we have made all the plans to ensure that this does not repeat. So I want to assure you that WHO and other partners will work hand in hand to ensure that we have a very quality round.
Yeah, to be candid, we have over 90% achievement in terms of coverage in the last 2 rounds, which are very far above the national coverage that we have reached, and we want to consolidate on that. And the other issue is that during the campaign, we had some other little issues in terms of our own site on the supervision, and we have some communities that are hesitant, and we have addressed them.
And to other parts of the continent now. Mali's junta has announced that it will quit a West African anti-jihadist force after it was blocked from assuming the presidency of the regional group. The country's departure from the G5 Sahel Security Force deepens its isolation after its neighbors hit it with sanctions in January over perceived foot dragging in its restoring civilian role. The Mali's diplomatic relations with Western allies, including former colonial power France, have also deteriorated, especially over its recent rapprochement with Russia. Earlier this month, UN Chief Antonio Guterres said political instability and human rights violations in Mali and Burkina Faso were undermining the Sahel's anti-jihadist operations and called for returning power to civilians as soon as possible. But Mali's junta claims it is a victim of politicking. And outside the continent now, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says talks with Russia on remaining evacuation in the Azovstal plant in Mariupol are still ongoing. Russian forces have been constantly bombarding the steelworks in the southern port of Mariupol, the last bastion of hundreds of Ukrainian defenders in a city almost completely controlled by Russia after more than 2 months of a siege. Many of those still in the steel plant are members of the Azov regiment, which started as a battalion of mostly far-right volunteers after Russian-backed separatists seized parts of the eastern Donbas region in 2014. Kyiv later made it a unit of the National Guard and said it was reformed. Russia says destroying the group is a key war aim. Now, gunfire has erupted at a Southern California church, killing at least 1 person and wounding 5, and a suspect taken into custody. The shooting occurred at Geneva Presbyterian Church in Laguna Woods, a town 16,000 that consists of Laguna Woods Village, a retirement community for people over 55 and older, once known as Leisure World. All of the victims were adults and were being taken to the hospital. The Orange County Sheriff's Department said in a Twitter message, 1 victim died at the scene. It was at least the second mass shooting of the weekend in the United States, which has been plagued with gun violence in recent years. In Buffalo, New York, on Saturday, a white 18-year-old man opened fire at a supermarket in a mostly black neighborhood, killing 10 and wounding 3 in what authorities described as a purely racist attack. Business news now. The Nigerian Ports Authority says that Tin Can Island Port is collapsing, saying that more attention should be focused on rehabilitating the key walls of the port. Speaking over the weekend, the managing director of the NPA, Mohammed Bello Koko, said that the agency had taken a holistic review of the decaying parts of the port. He added that the agency had started discussing with some lending agencies, stressing that the agency did not have intentions to borrow. Bello Koko said that the introduction of the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission Act meant that renewal of concession agreement for terminal operators was no longer done the way it used to be done. In entertainment news now, American singer Britney Spears has revealed she suffered a miscarriage weeks after announcing she is pregnant with her 3rd child. Now, Spears disclosed this in a joint Instagram post with her partner, Sam Asghari, saying she wished they had delayed the initial pregnancy announcement. She also stated that they would continue to try for a new child in order to expand their family. The 40-year-old pop icon announced her pregnancy in April, 6 months after a Los Angeles judge ended the controversial conservatorship that she claimed barred her from having more children. Sports news now. Jose Peseiro has been named as the Super Eagles head coach months after his initial deal with Nigeria Football Federation collapsed. An NFF statement said the appointment is with immediate effect, subject to the signing of agreed terms between the football body and the Portuguese. Peseiro is expected to lead out the Super Eagles for the first time during the upcoming tour of the United States of America, during which the 3-time African champions will slug it out with Mexico and Ecuador, 8 teams in prestige friendlies. The Eagles will tangle with the L3 at the AT&T Stadium in Dallas, the state of Texas, on the 28th of May, before flying to New Jersey to confront Ecuador at the Red Bull Arena in Harrison on Thursday, the 2nd of June. The educationist with a degree in physical education, sports sciences, will be assisted by former international George Fenidi. Salisu Yusuf will now serve as a second assistant as well as head coach of the Chan and under-23 national teams. Well, let's talk tennis now. World number 1 Novak Djokovic has claimed his first title in over 6 months after beating Stefanos Tsitsipas 6-love, 7-6 to win the Italian Open on Sunday. Djokovic did not drop a set en route to the final in Rome, having picked up his 1,000th tour-level victory by beating Casper Ruud in a semi-final to book a clash with Tsitsipas, a repeat of last year's French Open final, which the Serb won. A sixth successive win for Djokovic over his Greek opponent looked inevitable as he stomped through the full set with a blistering display of heating to which Tsitsipas had no answer. Now, Tsitsipas' name rung around Campo Centrale in the fourth game of the second set. However, an unforced error from Djokovic gave the Greek player 2 break points, the first of which he converted to take a 3-1 lead in the set. After Tsitsipas held to make it 4-1, Djokovic then upped in a gear, winning 5 of the next 7 games to take it to a tiebreak before sealing his 6th Italian Open title, and first since winning the Paris Masters in November. And tennis wraps it for us on Sports News and indeed the News Brief. For more stories, please follow us on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. I am Justin Akadonye. Many thanks for watching.